Westminster or Gordon Brown gets re-elected, because there's nothing we can do as voters in Britain to change those European laws. So that is an absolute, total denial of democracy.
And it turns your parliament into a vestigial, ceremonial dress of the European Union.
Yeah, the whole thing has become a complete charade, because 75% of our laws are made somewhere else, and that's before they got this new European Constitutional Treaty passed. And now we're told that even in areas like foreign policy, we can't do our own thing. We'll have to do it at a European level. So it is literally, being part of a European Union, this European Union, is the death of democracy. I believe the very same principles apply to these agreements that started back at the time of Kyoto and could be coming out of Copenhagen over the next period of time. Because if we sign up to a series, if Obama signs up and if Britain signs up to a whole set of targets 20, 30 years hence from now, then by definition, you've broken that principle of no parliament may bind its successor. Now, of course, we're always told that, we have to operate together, we have to operate at a European level or a global level to deal with the CO2 crisis or the war on terror or whatever else it may be, but that is a complete denial of democracy. And I've been fighting and making these points, and during the last few years, we've had the French in a referendum say no, we've had the Dutch in a referendum say no, we've had the Irish in a referendum say no. The British, of course, who were promised referendums all the way through, have just been denied them. But as I start to make these arguments, I can see the fear in the eyes of the leaders of this European Union project. I sit on the front bench of this Parliament. I'm literally within feet of these people that are doing this to our democracy, and I can see the fear in their eyes when I make these arguments, because they know what I'm saying is right. And their response to me has been truly extraordinary. And there are clips that you could find on the EU Parliament website. I've been called mentally ill because of what I stand for, which, of course, is very reminiscent, isn't it, of what
they've said you're a naked monkey up in a tree, and then when you try to defend yourself, you're told you can't name call. So it's like some Kafkaesque Soviet apparatchik court where it's la-la land. They can call you names, but you can't have free speech. You can't criticize the EU, but they can call you a naked monkey. By the way, that clip is coming up. Stay there. Nigel Farage is our guest.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Nigel Farage is our guest, UK member of the European Union Parliament, the leader of opposition to the New World Order in government in Europe. This is the man who is eloquently every week standing up to these people. Now they just turn his mic off, call him names, and then don't let him respond. The United Nations all over Copenhagen has their armed police on the streets declaring it a UN zone. At accredited press events, if you ask Al Gore or the IPCC head about ClimateGate, you are drug out at gunpoint. I mean, these are authoritarians. These are the children of Joe Stalin, of Mao Zedong, of Adolf Hitler. And when I say that, I mean it. I've watched them. They want control, and they want to squash all dissent. Nigel Farage, you've been around them for 9 years with these vipers. How would you describe them?
They are truly dreadful people. And I don't by that mean I disagree with their point of view. They are truly dreadful people. They will stop at nothing to get their goal. I remember a nice little anecdote. On the night of the Dutch referendum a few years ago on the EU Constitution, and the result came out, and 2/3 of the Dutch had said, no, we don't want this. And I was with about 50 skeptics in the European Parliament, in the members' bar, having a bit of a party, celebrating what I hoped would be the triumph of democracy over bureaucracy. And at that moment, a German MEP, a guy called Mr. Leinen, walked past me. And he'd been one of the authors of this constitution. And I said to him, oh, Joe, I said, do you want to join us for a drink to celebrate democracy in the Netherlands? And he looked at me, He said, no, I won't accept your drink. He said, and anyway, you enjoy your little victory tonight. He said, we have 50 different ways to win. And it was chilling, because it just about summed it up. There is literally nothing that will stop these people from achieving their goal. They are fanatics. You know, we got rid of Mussolini and Hitler. We got rid of what was seen to be those extreme nationalisms. Well, we've got a new one now, and it's called the European Union, and it's every bit as dangerous as those things that went before.
I was reading the Treaty of Rome, 1957, that really established the EU. It states that by stealth. And they talk about, oh, we've learned from Napoleon and Hitler not to do this militarily. We're going to do this via bureaucracy and taxation and creeping. This is a premeditated system funded by mega-rich that want monopolies, using communists as their henchmen who just want a piece of the middle class's pie. I mean, this is a truly piratical group from my study who know they're criminal. I mean, this is a very wicked group. How many of them are just true acolytes who believe in collectivism, and how many of them are true pirates?
Well, that's always a tough one to answer, but I can tell you. I mean, you know, we've had, for the last 5 years, one of the European commissioners, a man from Hungary, Mr. Kovacs, who was for many, many years the right-hand man of the dictator, Mr. Kadar, in Hungary, a fully paid-up member of the Soviet Communist Party. He's been an EU commissioner for the last 5 years. Worked directly for the Soviets before the wall came down.
Sir, can you start over? Something cut out your phone line. Go back to the communist commissars now in the EU.
Yeah, of the 27 EU commissioners that we have now, and these are the people with the real power in Europe. They're not elected, they're appointed, but these are the people who have the sole right to propose legislation that is effective in all our countries. 6 of those work directly for the Soviet communist regime before the wall came down. And that isn't going to improve particularly, because we've got Mr. Van Rompuy, who's going to take over as the European president. But the new foreign minister that's taking over is a lady called Baroness Ashton from Britain. And from 1980 to 82, she was the treasurer of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament in Britain, a campaign that wanted us to unilaterally disarm, and an organisation that was directly in receipt of funds from the Communist Party of Great Britain.
Stay there.
These are the people.
Stay there, Nigel Farage, a member of Parliament. We have that clip of where you confront them coming up. We'll go right back to you.
This morning, I thought this was going to be a big, proud moment. I mean, it's taken you 8.5 years of bullying, of lying, of ignoring democratic referendums. 8.5 years it's taken you to get this treaty through, and on the 1st of December, you will have it. And of course, the architect of all of this, Giscard, wanted from this constitutional treaty for the European Union to have a big global voice. But I'm afraid the leaders have suffered from a collective loss of nerve. They've decided that they want their faces to be up on the global stage, not somebody from the European Union, and so we've got appointed a couple of political pygmies. The Kissinger question of who to call in Europe hasn't really been answered, has it? I guess the answer can only be Mr. Barroso, because he's the only one that anybody in the world has ever heard of, and is probably the big winner out of these posts. No wonder, sir, you look so happy this morning. And we have a new President of Europe, Herman Van Rompuy. Doesn't exactly trip off the tongue, does it? I can't see him stopping the traffic in Beijing or Washington. I doubt anybody in Brussels would even recognise who he is. And yet, he's going to be paid a salary that is bigger than Obama's, which tells you all you need to know about this European political class and how they look after themselves. But at least he's an elected politician, unlike Baroness Cathy Ashton, who really is the true representation of the modern day political class. In some ways she's ideal, isn't she? She's never had a proper job, and she's never been elected to anything in her life. So I guess she's perfect for this European Union.
Excuse me, Mr. Farage.
Yes.
I would like to put down your postages. You made your presentation.
Right, okay.
Is
Yes,
enough for
calm
us.
down, chaps.
Okay,
Calm down, chaps.
please continue.
Calm no. But, I mean, she's never been elected to anything, and no one knows who she is. Even the Prime Minister was talking about